Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening for us. We're doing this evening. Take two. We have got a great show for tonight. I'm your host, D from Microbrew Gamers, and my cohort, Cecil Xavier from GNA. How you doing, Cecil? Man? I'm doing excellent. We're getting on our way to drunk because we douched up the first take, and now we're drinking again.
Take two, which means beer 4.
At 9.5% ABV, we're doing good. Plus other stuff.
Yeah. I've been. I had to slip into some rum as well. So, which ironically, the beer that we're drinking tonight marries very well.
That is excellent. The beer is actually Golden Monkey by the Victory Brewing Company. Got like a Buddhist thing going on right there. It only sees evil. I guess it doesn't hear or speak it, but... Oh, it also gives you the asshole symbol, too. Dude, look at that. Have you noticed that before?
Nope, still not noticing it.
Oh, well, it looked like he gave you the asshole symbol. But anyways...
Oh, it is! It is! It's giving the thing!
It is! Told you!
Crap. Somebody's gonna punch me.
But, this is by Victory Brewing Company, and it's their Belgian-style triple, which is an excellent take. A triple beer typically refers to a beer style where they use up to 3 times as much malt as a typical Trappist beer, but it's also been used in reference to stronger pale ales along the Belgian styles. Now, the brewers of this company first trained in Germany before coming back to the U.S., which is certainly where they get a lot of their usages of different yeasts and malts. That's for sure, because you can taste it. They came back here to the U.S. where they can be more creative with their style of beers. As in Germany, you don't get to be as quite creative with the craft beers because typically they have, whether it be food or drink, a certain style or type of it, and you adhere to these strict ingredients and everything, temperatures, how you make it. And it's either done that way or it's not considered that type at all. So they're pretty strict on that. But I really do appreciate the fact they came back here, the craft beers, and they got a little bit creative with their yeasts, their malts, and some spices. It's got one of the Belgian style yeasts, which is very similar to one of the German ones, gives it that banana clove smell and flavor. Very reminiscent of a Hefeweizen, which I really love. But it's also kind of like a Pilsner, too, at the same... It's like a cross between the two, which is pretty interesting. The ABV, like we said before, is 9.5, so if you don't want to stay sober, that's great for that. Now, as the nose smells like the clove and banana, the attack in the body are very both fruity and earthy at the same time. That's rum. Wrong bottle, man. I think you muted yourself.
I may have.
May have? Yeah, may have, yeah.
Edit that right out.
Yep. This beer doesn't taste overly strong or boozy, so it's not overpowering. It doesn't have a strong aftertaste that really just sticks with you and makes you kind of a little. It does have a slight amount of bitter from the hops that you get. At least I detect a slight amount of bitter, but not bad. I am truly enjoying this. The company recommends you pair this with different types of sheep's milk cheeses, which I agree goes very well with this. And as Cecil said, apparently rum goes great with it too. Or seafood, which I can't attest to because, unfortunately, that would be a death sentence for me.
Well, I mean, you could. It would
but only once.
Last time, yeah.
Yeah, only once. It would be entertaining to watch as I slowly did the, turn into the giant grape like from Willy Wonka and died.
Yeah, I just called dibs on the shelf that's directly behind you next to the door.
That is a nice shelf. Both of them are actually pretty nice. So, what'd you think of the beer there, Cecil?
I can agree with you completely. I thought that it really had no bitterness to it whatsoever. It definitely had the sweetness of a Hefeweizen. Has a lot of it. It's got a lot of flavor to it. and it's also very simple of a beer as well. Now, I think you said before that your bitterness was right on the attack.
Yeah.
My bitterness that I tasted, all of it, was actually completely on the exhale. I found it to not to be bitter whatsoever on the attack. I found it to be very sweet and right on the tip of your tongue type of sweet. There's a lot of fruitiness to it, a lot of sweetness. So if you like sweet beers, this is the beer for you, because this is a sweet attack right to the dome. Now, unfortunately, I'm not a huge fan of sweet beers. I like bitter beers. I like it to be very, very in your face. This beer is in your face, but in a completely different way. This beer is in your face with that sweetiness, with that flavor. And at a 9.5 by volume, you would think that this would be a really hard-hitting beer, and it's not. It doesn't taste very strong. I've had a lot of other beers that are incredibly strong flavored. To name one, the 90-minute IPA. That one has a very distinct alcohol flavor to it. You know you're drinking something with a kick. This Golden Monkey, I almost never feel like I'm drinking it and getting a kick out of it. I mean, I'm getting a kick out of drinking it, but I don't feel like I'm getting a kick from the drink. It's very, very flavorful, very complex, but also very simplistic. Now, while you said it had the taste of combination of a Pilsner, I actually taste the aftertaste is almost that aftertaste of an American-style lager to me, which is really strange because nothing about this screams lager, but it has that aftertaste. So if you like the Budweisers and the Coors, this would be a great beer to step into if you're looking for craft beers, because it has that aftertaste of it.
Actually,
it has
very
all that sweetness to it.
Very spot on. That is kind of almost, like a Budweiser almost type hint.
That tail end of it, not the whole of it. So we're not saying this is Budweiser. Please, for the love of God, this is not a Budweiser.
Don't crucify us.
Yeah, if you like American style lagers, and that includes all of them, they have a very distinct flavor at the end. And Golden Monkey has that little bit of a flavor right at the end that has that it almost tastes. Now, I'm not saying exactly. It almost has that taste of American style lager. So if you like sweeter beers, if you like to get into craft beers, this would be the beer I would say is for you.
Also, if you want a stealth ninja where it's like, hey, this doesn't taste like a lot of alcohol, and then you get real uppercut you right in the groin. You'll be drunk in no time.
Yeah, this is a kick to the crotch, especially after two 750 milliliter bottles of it. Or, well, no, sorry, it's now going to be 4. But we won't get into that, will we?
But very tasty, and there's a recommended style of drinking too. To get the most out of this beer, you want to slowly tilt the glass as you slowly pour it, and then start pouring in most of the rest to get that little bit of a foamy head on the top. You want to serve it at 45 degrees Fahrenheit, so pretty chilled. Do not pour in the last dregs. You want to leave the last little, bit at the bottom, because that contains a lot of the yeast and the particles and the sediment. And they recommend it's great to leave it in there for the flavor, but just don't use it, because it'll, once you get that last dregs, it'll just ruin the flavor. You'll get all that sediment crap, and you get hit with a stronger flavor.
Which I found out on the first beer I poured.
Didn't do his research.
Nope. But now I disagree with you only on one thing, and I'm not saying that you're wrong, but I like my beer. I like my beers to be around 55 to 60 degrees. So I actually poured mine out, and I let mine sit for about 5 or 10 minutes before I started drinking it, and I found that it had a lot of great flavor to it.
Oh yeah, well that's the second part, is they recommend that you serve it at 45 degrees, but you drink it slowly as it starts to warm up to get the most out of all the complex flavors will come out as it starts to warm up. Which is the second part of that, is you slowly sip it as it warms up, and you get all that flavor, which adds a little bit to the complexity. So it's really good.
Yeah, it's I can't say how this beer has such a simple concept and simple taste at first, but then it gets very, very complex as it goes through.
For those of you, it's a great introductory beer for those that aren't that like sweeter beers but aren't quite in the whole RPL, like love the bitter stuff. So it's a great way to slide into there if you're a fan of some of the ales like the Budweisers and everything else. It's a little bit sweeter, of course, and obviously much heavier duty alcohol content. But yeah, it's a great starting beer if you're not into the really really bitter stuff yet.
Yeah, it's a great step into the craft beers.
Yeah, it's definitely. I would give it a must try for anybody that likes sweet beers or craft beers. Obviously, if there's beers that you like the more bitter and the hoppy beers, like the IPAs, well, we'll get you covered with those too. We got plenty of those in the GNA podcast we go through. All right, so the next part of business is the game. I'll let Cecil introduce that because he worked hard at playing that.
So I'm really excited about this game. This game is made by the same company that made Faster Than Light, the Subset Games. If you don't remember what Faster Than Light is, Faster Than Light was a roguelike spaceship combat game. Really, really fun, very simplistic, got rave reviews. Well, this is the same company. However, this is not Faster Than Light. Into the Breach is an isometric mech strategy game where you fight the Vec, a race of giant monsters, in a single-player turn-based world. Now, that is a mouthful, but that's really what this game is all about. It is a turn-based world, kind of like Final Fantasy Tactics, or what was that other mech game that we were just talking about a little while
Advance
ago?
Wars. Well, it wasn't a mech game per se, but it was a strategic game that was very just 2D. So if you take that and mix it with the isometric of the Final Fantasy Tactics, you get kind of the look and feel of it with the 2D, with the pixel art.
Exactly. And that's where Into the Breach comes. Into the Breach is another pixel art world to jump into with both feet.
Maybe you'll need a little front mission, too.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah.
So you can protect the city or let most of it crumble for who the hell cares. But if you protect the city, you actually get bonuses for it with the concept of energy that allows you to buy stuff for your mechs and upgrade them. Either way, this is some mech on monster fun that Subset Games has created. Think of this game as almost a simplified game of chess. You don't want to think of the next move. You want to think of like the 10 moves after that, because if you don't think forward of the moves that you're doing, you're going to lose at this game. Into the Breach is fast-paced, but turn-based. Now, I know that doesn't seem like a really great concept, but each mission only takes about 10 or 15 minutes to complete. Unlike a lot of other strategy games that I can think of, like Command and Conquer, if you want to go back, or even some of the newer XCOM games, that can take up to 30 minutes to complete, or more, to complete a single battle.
And I found that taxing, in XCOM at least.
It's exhausting, really. And that's what I really like about Into the Breach, is that you can sit, jump in, do a quick battle, feel like you've actually accomplished something, and then put it down, and you don't feel guilty that you didn't do something, or you didn't do more, that you didn't grind more. So you can move through this game at whatever pace you want. You can move fast or slow. Now, if you're anything like me, you're going to crank through this game as quickly as possible. Now, the fun part, where this gets really complex, is as you start progressing through the games, you upgrade your mechs or you don't upgrade your mechs. It can hurt you or it can help you depending on what path you take. And if a mech gets roasted, well, that mech is gone and you're screwed out of that mech. So,
like Fire Emblem, when you had the hard mode where you lost your people permanently.
Exactly. So it makes it really, really difficult for you to figure out, okay, what am I going to do? How much risk am I going to take these things on? Now, the strategy part comes in a lot of different facets. Now, you've got a very simplistic move style that you have. You have an up, down, left, right type of thing. It's not a hex pattern. It's not very complex where you've got to calculate jump points, all that stuff. It's very simplistic. You've got 4 directions that you move in. Where it comes in complexity is the Vec move in the same pattern. They'll attack a city or a building for some reason. When they aim at that building, you've got to figure out a way to stop them from attacking that building. Or if you're crafty, you can throw them in front of a train and they get smacked by a train, or you can throw them on top of other Vec trying to erupt from the ground. A great part there is not only does it stop that Vec from erupting from the ground and give you another creature on the board that you got to worry about, but it also does damage to that Vec that was on top of that other monster. So they take damage, and it makes it easier for you to take them down. So there's a lot of strategies, there's a lot of complexities to this game that you really have to think around and work with, but it's a very, very simplistic game, control-wise and everything right on board.
So those burrowing bastards, they're like mutated fucking woodchucks.
Yeah.
Got out of nowhere, ruining your garden.
If you could get
Your
Bill
city.
Murray there to just take them out, it'd be all set.
Maybe they should have had him do the voiceover.
Oh man, we gotta get in touch with Bill Murray.
Yes, we do. Oh, yes. Bill Murray would be awesome in that.
But this game is great if you want a quick game that you can jump in and out of, or if you want a nice strategy game that's really going to make you think. The different modes that you have in it, you have easy, medium, and hard, and they are exactly that. Easy, while it says easy, is still very, very taxing and very, very unforgiving. It's if you let your mechs die. As you go up in level, the challenge only increases, but so does the gratification when you complete a level with all your mechs alive and you saving all the citizens.
Definitely, it's a really cool game. Now, my question for you is: was there any like storyline, or where does this take place? This world of the mechs versus the Vex.
So this is in a futuristic kind of half-apocalyptic world. There's still cities alive. There's still cities flourishing, but these Vec have it's kind of the same kind of the concept of a Pacific Rim or Gundam or Knights of Sidonia. Well, not really Knights of Sidonia. Since Knights of Sidonia is you're out floating in space, but that same monsters are coming to take over the world, and you're fighting them back to save humanity and civilization.
That's pretty awesome. That seems to be a common theme with anime and games.
Yeah, and the pixel art on this, you would really think that it takes away from it, but it really, really enhances it. It gives it that. It also gives it that accessibility that anybody can play this game. This game is almost optimized that it could play on a phone.
Yeah, I really I'm a big fan of the pixel art, but the pixel art well done can really, really make a game just pop. I mean, obviously pixel art done poorly and it just looks like shitty graphics, but I think they did a very good job capturing the pixel art with the mechs versus the isometric versus the 2D, and also makes it for not a huge install or a taxing game to play on your system either.
Yeah, I can't agree more. It's a fantastic game. It's a fun game. If you haven't tried it, go out and check it out. And actually, it's really interesting because just like this beer that we're drinking, Golden Monkey, while it's simplistic at view, there's a lot of complexities to it. So really, this beer and this game marry very well together because they both have extreme similarities.
So no basic here. Drink. Now the next order of business is we're going to actually explain the game as we play a level. So we're going to show you guys that fantastic pixel art, and you'll get the idea of what we're trying to explain and trying to convey over here. So let's hop right into that.
All right, so this is a very simplistic intro menu. You can select your different mechs that you have as you play through the game, and you have different time travelers and different people that you can assign to you. You unlock more as you play through the game, but as soon as you start the mission, it's going to launch your 3 mechs or artillery or whatever down to wherever you're going to go. As you unlock different areas, they'll turn green versus red, and you'll gain more energy or more bonuses that you can use to spend on your mechs later. First thing you got to do is pick where you're going to drop your mechs. So dropping your mechs in some strategic locations is going to help, because depending on where you drop them is how it's going to help you later on for attacking those guys.
So you're saying terrain, sorry, it says terrain, so terrain is really important in this game as well.
Correct. You've got terrain as well as where you want to drop those mechs and artillery, because they're going to move a certain amount. So as you saw, that Vec just actually took down and tried to attack my guy and wrecked itself on a mine. There's some Vec coming up in the warning right there, where they're actually going to be merging themselves up in a second. So that Vec you see is about to attack that building. So I've got to figure out a way to get that mech or get that Vec off of there so that he doesn't do damage to that building. Because if they take down a building, you actually get less points for it. Now I'm angling my mech there so that I can take out those Vec that come up. And I'm angling that mech there so that I can actually take a shot. Because as soon as I hit that guy, as you see, it moves him forward and gets him out of the way a little bit. Now, unfortunately, I was hoping to get my other mech into position so I could knock him back one more, but I really couldn't with the turns that I had and the movement I had. So now I got to let the enemy go, and the enemy, just like turn-based, is normal, so the enemy has attacked, taking the shields down on that building. Now I've got to worry about that Vec taking out that building right there. So as you can see, that building is threatened right now, so I've got to go over there and make sure that that Vec doesn't attack there.
It's almost like a Godzilla-ish, a Tactics Godzilla game.
Correct. Now, I screwed up there. I actually should have shot next to that Vec instead of directly on top of it to move it. So because I shot next to it, it means that that Vec is still going to attack that building. Now, as you can see there, I just shot that Vec into a building, which also made casualties happen because they hit that building at the same time. So because I didn't take out those Vec right there, those Vec have attacked those buildings and have done some damage. Now, one of the fun things you can do is you can actually knock those Vec into mines and actually do some damage to them, as well as drop them on a mine and do some extra damage to them. Just like I did there.
Little combo. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so there's a little bit of strategy, and as I said, the easier difficulties have things like more mines and less Vec to worry about, but there's still a lot of strategy that you have to work with, because sometimes a mine isn't going to do everything that you need it to do. And sometimes you just got to move that Vec out of the way, so that Vec will just attack something mundane, like that mountain, instead of attacking that building.
I can see why you said this is both simple and simplistic, or both simplistic and complicated at the same time. There's a lot of strategy underneath the hood, but the controls and initially learning to play is pretty simple.
Exactly.
The mechanics, yeah.
Exactly. And one of the things that that subset games did for you is they telegraphed the moves of the Vec a little bit more so that you can kind of tell what they're going to do when they're going to do it. So it gives you a better chance at figuring out how to attack these guys. Now, this attack I'm about to do actually does an AoE, which pushes everything around it out of the way. Now, unfortunately, me being an idiot there, I just put myself in a position there where I could have gotten hit. Thankfully, I still had that move to go. So now I'm going to let that Vec take down that shield. It's not going to do any damage, but it's going to take down the shield on that. Now, one of the things that subset games did to try to make these missions very, very streamlined is they give you a certain number of turns, a certain number of moves to complete and kill all the Vec, then the mission's over. So really, it shortens the time that you're going to be on a mission altogether.
Now, does it penalize you with any of the Vecs that were a few of them left over and they just reburrowed themselves?
So it can, depending on how many stars you had. So depending on what the mission is. So if the mission was to destroy all the Vec, then yes, it absolutely does hinder you in that. But if all you had to do was make sure that you had somebody in the city survive, then it really doesn't matter if the Vec survive. So in this one specifically, the mission is to defend the train. So as you see, that train is going to be coming through. I've got to defend that train all the way through so that it makes it all the way out. But I also have to defend the city.
And you also can't block the train's route either, right?
Correct. If you block the train's route, what is going to happen is that train is going to hit you and do damage.
Oh, wow. So even NPCs like the train have a lot to do with the complexity of this.
Exactly. So I just took some damage there. Actually, the first damage I've taken so far. And as you can see, the moves are telegraphed so you can see what they're doing and when. Now, if I play my cards right on this one, I can actually use this, which I didn't, unfortunately. I could have used that to knock that Vec on top of the other Vec. But you could also knock Vec into other Vec so that they do damage, which you're going to see here in a second. So it did damage not only to the Vec I hit, but it did damage to the Vec behind it.
So additional damage to the Vec, and then, of course, a little bit to the behind it.
There's knockback damage if you knock them into something.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And there's also fire damage as well. So you can see that forest is on fire right now. If I would happen to send a Vec into that forest fire, they would do some damage and they'd get killed.
That's really cool. Now, if this was California, nobody would survive the fire damage.
No. Thankfully, it's not California, though.
Yeah. Somebody please tell people not to light any matches over there. Smokey the Bear is disappointed.
So here I have a bit of a dilemma. Do I want to try to save that city, or do I want to try to save that train?
However, the train's the main part of the mission, so that's a tough call.
Since my objective is the train specifically, it means I'm going to try to do damage train versus to the city versus the train. And there's one move left. So as you can see, the train is almost out of the city there. So since the train made it to the end, I've completed that, and I've gotten the 2 stars out of that. And it tells you how many civilians were protected each time I go through.
Excellent. So it's pretty simple probably to at least get a couple of the stars. Now to max the stars, that would be the really difficult part.
It takes some time, and it is very, very difficult to upgrade everything. Now you can see I've got my power grid up there, and the amount of power that I have is how much power I can give out. So there is an upgrade system, and the upgrade system does allow you to do more damage or take more hits, which is really important. And the different areas that you take over, like this area that I'm going to take over next, once I complete this mission, as long as I don't lose any mechs in the process, I'm going to get an extra power grid, which is going to allow me to upgrade some of my mechs and do some more damage.
That's really neat.
And just like here, so this one right here, that Vec actually, instead of attacking directly, as soon as it gets next to it, it uses this sludge to hold you in place. Now, one of the things that you got to try to figure out how to do is you can either break that person out of there by literally making that person move, or you got to move the Vec to make them break their seal like that.
Oh, that's pretty neat too. So that's an additional part. Oh, but with that Vex, you hit him and it breaks the seal, but he also takes some damage to the buildings and casualties.
Exactly. So there's a slight casualty there.
So choose your sacrifice, pretty much.
Exactly what you have to do. So don't let any volatile Vec die, whichever one those are. I forget which one those are. And then it's protect the power grid. So you got to make sure that you protect the power grid the entire time.
Oh wow, that's a lot of Vec.
Yeah,
I see the difficulty has gotten up significantly.
Yeah, well, actually, I screwed up. So I killed one of the volatile Vec. So as soon as I did that, it actually...
You got the game over.
Got the game over. It wrecked me.
Oh, wow. So like one really royally wrong move, and you kind of pooched. You got to start that over again.
Exactly. And the different time travelers that you select is actually going to give you different abilities. Like that one gives you +2 XP per kill. And then as you go through, you actually can unlock different ones. And you can unlock different colors for your different characters as well. And once you go through, you gain different currency that allows you to unlock different mechs. So it's a strategy game of trying to figure out what you can use where. But here I've basically started over because I lost. So now I'm starting the entire game over again.
Now, as you unlock everything and you go along, is there any multiplayer or online play that they've created for this at all?
Negative
and
Ghost
do
Rider.
They plan to if they don't? Okay, so it's just a by yourself type, just a nice,
Yeah, Subset Game is a master of single-player games. It gives you a fantastic single-player experience. That is just, it's a genuine single-player experience. It's
which is nice in this day and age because you don't get a lot of that lately. You get a lot of people that focus solely on the multiplayer, the combat, the PvP. So this is kind of cool just to have a new entry into like strategy games.
Exactly. So here you can see I completely screwed the pooch on it.
You're going to have a bad time.
Except I've just caught that forest on fire with that Vec inside of it. So now what's going to happen is when I end the turn, he's going to take some damage and he's dead. And since that Vec was nowhere near a building, I don't have to worry about him.
So it turned out to be a good thing. Yeah, that's pretty neat.
It's that combo system. You got to think about where the Vec are and how you're going to use them and how you're going to attack them.
And where are they going to and how do you limit as many? Because I'm sure you can't limit, all casualties. You're going to take some here and there. So you really got to limit and make your choices, wisely. Yeah.
Exactly. You got to choose who's going to take what.
And that actually adds a bit of challenge to the game because, a lot of times you get perfectionists or completionists, they don't want to take any damage or they don't want to sacrifice anything, and you put them in a real bugger of a dilemma.
Yeah, it's a Kobayashi Maru. Somebody's going to die. Probably everybody.
But that does add a nice it adds the tough decision making, where your decisions really do mean something because there's no way to just, Google it and say, okay, I'm going to get through here with perfect, no damage. No, you're going to take something. You're going to lose something, which is nice. It's just a, and probably no single playthrough is probably going to be, it's not going to be like you play it through. It's the same over and over again. There's different tactics you can use, so it can be a unique playthrough each time.
Yeah,
and you can still either do well or do poorly.
And here's where I actually placed one of my units on top of one of the Vec coming out. So as you see, my unit took damage, but the enemy was blocked.
Yeah, so I'm doing a little hop, like, whoo!
But it also stopped that enemy specifically from making it out. So now I don't need to worry about that enemy coming out and having to worry about it destroying something.
Just yet, but if there's still turns left, will he then try to come out again?
No, so you'll see it. It's once it's stopped moving, that's it. It's done. Now, as you can see, I took out all the Vec, so the mission's over.
Oh, nice. And you didn't completely destroy your mech, so it was kind of an acceptable loss there. Just a little bit of damage.
Exactly, and your mechs do heal as in between missions, so if you take one damage, it's not like that one damage is staying there the entire time. That one damage is... that
just like other tactic games like Final Fantasy X, it's a fresh start with each battle, each mission.
Correct.
Which is fantastic. I really dig this game, and I think a lot of our watchers or viewers are going to dig this one too.
Yeah, if you haven't tried it, check it out. It's by Subset Games. You can get it on all the major places, GOG, Steam, all the major places out there. Very, very fun, very entertaining. And again, it's something that you can jump into and jump out of without any fear, any remorse that you're missing something or you haven't given it its due.
And like you could save between each mission, so you can just come back later after every mission.
Correct, but it's so fast paced that even if you don't save to get back to where you were, it's not that hard. And as you unlock stuff, everything stays unlocked for your progressive playthroughs.
Oh, well, that is really cool. So you could just keep learning and take your lessons learned and just do better the next time too.
Just like Faster Than Light, everything that you get unlocks for your next playthrough, and you can continue on playing.
Which is where we get the little Faster Than Light nuances here.
Exactly.
Yeah, this is how long has this company been around? Do you know?
Off the top of my head, no. But Subset, I know Faster Than Light came out several years ago.
Yeah. Because I know they're an indie company. I know they weren't super new, but I wasn't sure how new they were. It's always good to see these up and coming indie games when they do a really good job. I think obviously there's a lot of shovelware. There's a lot of people that have dreamed big but don't execute well. But I think this is one of the ones that honestly executed very well in both their games that I know of so far. I don't know of the company for any other games, but so far I think they have a fantastic record.
Absolutely. Yeah, I couldn't be more pleased with how this game and Faster Than Light came out.
Yeah, and being a fan of course, we've been big fans of Final Fantasy Tactics. I, of course, loved Advance Wars. It's one of the first games I got when I first got when the Game Boy Advance first came out. So I really enjoyed Advance Wars. I played through that, within a few days. So this is definitely on our list of highly recommended. Yeah, and everybody out there, thank you for watching. I'm sorry, Cecil, you have some more to add?
Thank you all for watching. If you haven't checked out Faster Than Light, go check it out from Subset Games. You can get it on Steam for extremely cheap, or with one of the winter sale or summer sales going. You can check them out then. Into the Breach. Go get Into the Breach. Made by the same people who made Faster Than Light, Subset Games.
And, of course, check out GNA Podcast for our audio. We do reviews of a lot of different things. Check out Yeah Dude Gamers for both streaming, mostly Twitch streaming. They're doing a great job, a very regular schedule with that. All kinds of games, some horror, some RPG. Anybody else you want to recommend there, Cecil?
Actually, if I can give a quick shout out to MorganBS.com. MorganBS.com. He did our new logo and artwork. Great guy, does some great photography. Go check him out. And please go check out TPC 3-Player Co-op. There's some great great people, great podcast, really contributes to the community. They've got their NFL Madden League going on right now. They've put a lot of effort into it, and they deserve all the credit for putting all the effort into it. So go check them out as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you for co-hosting tonight. This has been fantastic. Great beer, great game. Once again, Prost.
Prost.
And we'll see you all again soon.
Have a good night.
Have a good night, bro.